to get started. Tiffany is on her way, but we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get rolling.
We need to find her. Fine.
Kenny, you're in charge.
I'll take care of that.
You fined her yesterday because you ate her candy.
I did. I ate it. I did.
Okay, this meeting is now called to order. Ms. Gaynor, will you please introduce our visitors? There's not as many today, so this should be easier.
I think it'd be easy to come back to the table.
Okay.
I'll start over here with Barry Maka, our general counsel. Mike Taylor is our internal auditor. Vice President Keith Lamb. Rebecca Stogner is our SGA president. Provost Dr. Betty Stewart. Vice President Robert Clark. Chris Stofall is our controller. Vice President Howard Farrell. Today we have Matt Kennedy, who is a former member and a Regent Emeritus. And then over here we have Dr. Deborah Garrison, who is Associate Vice President. Dirk Welch is Chairman of the Staff Senate. Dr. David Carlson is Chairman of the Faculty Senate. Matt Clark is Associate Vice President and Dean of Students. We have Charlie Carr, Director of Athletics. Lance Sweeten-Schultz is Reporter for the Times-Record News. Back here we have Chris Maines, who's with Information Technology, and Cindy Ashlock, Executive Assistant President.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, Dean, where's my go-to guy, Kyle? He's not here today. He's gunshot. Okay. Welcome and thank you for your participation in our committee meetings yesterday. I thought it was a very productive day. Just a reminder that we're being streamed live on the internet. Please silence and turn off your cell phones. We provide an opportunity for public comment concerning agenda items at the beginning of each meeting. It appears no one has signed up to speak, and we'll move on. We'll take items 15, 89, 90, and 91 together. These are the approval of the minutes from the November 6th and 7th and December 1st board meetings. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they'll stand approved as presented. We'll now move to the consent agendas. The Executive Committee met yesterday, and our report is as follows. Item presented for committee approval only, 1556 committee minutes. Item presented for information only, 1557 campus master plan and construction update. Items approved by the committee and placed on the consent agenda. 1558 mass communications project, architect selection, approved Reese Associates to provide the design for this project at a cost not to exceed $450,000. Item 1559, student housing project site work, authorize the administration to issue a contract with Buford Thompson Company for site work and framing in preparation for this project at a guaranteed maximum price not to exceed $4.5 million. 1560, student housing and mass communications project, financing approved a resolution authorizing a request for financing and the execution and delivery of documents required to effect such financing as presented. Item 1561, roofing project. Authorize the president of the university to approve and sign contracts with roofing contractors as presented. Item 1562, Wichita Falls Museum of Art at MSU, strategic and tactical plan. Fiscal 2015, approve the plan as presented. Item 1556, Wichita Falls Museum of Art at MSU, ratification. Accession artworks, ratified the accession of the items presented. I recommend approval of this consent agenda as presented. Would anyone like to remove items from the consent agenda or for further discussion? If not, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. To follow up on a question that was asked yesterday regarding museum attendance, Jesse, I think you asked that question. Annual attendance in fiscal 2014 was 19,767, just shy of the goal of 20,000. And during the first 5 months of 2015, there have been more than 7,000 visitors. So, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Perfect. Dr. Gibbons, please present the Academic and Student Affairs Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee met yesterday. Our report is as follows. Item presented for committee approval only was 15-64, the committee minutes. The following items were presented for information only. 15-65 was the faculty report, 15-66 the staff report, 15-67 student government report, 15-68 athletic report, and 15-69 the enrollment report for the spring of 2015. The following items were approved by the committee and are now placed on the consent agenda. Item 15-70, the petition for Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry. Approve the granting of degree to Dr. Jesus Espino Tonch as presented. Item 15-71, addition of a minor in foreign languages. Approve the addition of a Spanish for the professionals minor as presented. 15-72, the addition of interdisciplinary minor. Approve the addition of a women's and gender studies minor as presented. 15-73, core curriculum. We approve changes to the core as presented. 15-74 was a dining services contract. The committee approved contracting with Chartwells to provide on-campus dining operations beginning on and before August 1st, 2015 as presented. Item 15-75 were some MSU policies and procedures changes. The committee approved changes to the following policies as were presented. A, policy 2.393 was the staff senate purpose and constitution. B was policy 3.146, graduate faculty requirements and procedures. Chairman Hessing, I recommend approval of this consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Would anyone like to remove items from the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, the committee chair has recommended approval. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Bernhardt, please present the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met yesterday, and our report is as follows. Item presented for committee approval only, 15-76, committee minutes. Item presented for information only, 15-77, summary of financial support. 15-85, the budget planning. Items approved by committee and placed on consent agenda, 15-78, financial reports, accepting the financial year of 2014 annual financial report and the monthly financial reports for September through December 2014. 15-79, investment report, accepting the first quarter 2015 investment report. 15-80, review of MSU endowment pool investment, approval that any new university-held endowments be invested with the Texas A&M University system. 15-81, approval of broker-dealers, approved the list as presented. 15-82, fiscal year 2015, items $50,000 and under, ratified the budget as changed as presented. 15-83, personnel report and changes fiscal year 2015 budget, ratified the change as presented. 15-84, return check charge, authorizing the increased return check charge from $15 to $30 effective immediately. Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of these consent agendas as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Bernhardt. Would anyone like to remove items from the consent agenda for further discussion? If not, the committee chair has recommended approval. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Sanchez, please present the Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee report.
Thank you, Chairman Hesse. The Audit Compliance and Management Review Committee met yesterday, and our report is as follows. Item presented for committee approval only, 1586 committee minutes. Items presented for information only, 1587 audit activities, 1588 compliance activities. Chairman Hesse, that concludes my report.
Okay, we'll move on. Item 1592, nominating committee for board officers for 2016-17 biennium. I'd like to ask Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Crosno, and Mrs. Marks to serve on this committee, with Mr. Sanchez serving as chair. This committee will present the report and recommendation to the board in May. Sam, if you will coordinate with your committee, and then you guys can meet at your leisure and the way you want to do it, and coordinate with Debbie. Sure. Item 1593, the President's report. Dr. Rogers.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Let me be brief. Let me ask you all, if you would, go to your Committee of the Whole tab and pull that back and look, and you'll see a table This is called the Midwestern State University Dashboard, Indicators and Projections. I will call your attention to that and give you a little history of it and point out a couple of items on our dashboard. Yeah, it's in your agenda. There. All right. Everybody find it?
The very front of your binder.
Yeah, very front of the binder. Behind
Look back
the
up 2
media of
pages.
the whole tab.
There it is.
In front of it. Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we're required to put an extensive amount of information on our website and be very open about the university. Some time ago, I believe this started at the University of Houston. They decided to develop their own indicators and goals. David came back from that meeting in Austin, recommended to us, the staff and our research group put together this dashboard several years ago. And we update it every year and produce it, and I think it's a good thing for the board to look at because it'll give you an idea of where we've been and where we hope to go. We were allowed to pick the criteria in the dashboard that we wanted to use on our own. These all of the criteria were we put together. If you have any more you'd like for us to add, let us know and we'll take a look at it. So we update not only the criteria but the numbers and the trends every year. And I think that if you want to look at it sometime, it'll give you a good idea of some of the things that we've talked about in here. Look at 2A, student success, for example. We had a discussion about that yesterday, and I told you for many, many years our freshman retention rate has been rocking around 70%. This is true nationally. When you put all universities together, we've got to break out of that because students who fail their first year are those who are least likely to ever finish a college degree. And we're starting a concerted effort to keep our freshmen here. I wanted to point out the number below that, and that's the first-time retention rate at the end of the sophomore year, but that's cumulative. That's the freshmen we lost and the sophomores. The sophomores are a big dropout year. That's a really difficult year typically in everyone's curriculum. But if we improve that first year, I think we can improve the second. That's going to be one of the major efforts, and we're going to put resources and people into that. I think we can do that. I'll also point out some interesting things too. Our goal for graduating number of at-risk students by 18-19 is going to be 958 out of about 1,300 students that we project that we will graduate. Sometimes we could have a discussion of at-risk, but it's a variety of criteria that's used by the Department of Education based upon years of data about students who start colleges and who do not finish or who do finish. Another interesting thing too is look at the total endowment in the next to the last line, 4B, from our base year of our base year of 2008, 2009. We've gone from 44 to 73. I had hoped before I retired we could get it up to $80,000 or $90,000, and we still could make that. That is a significant endowment, total endowment for a university the size of Midwestern, and it means a lot to us, and it shows a lot about our donors and what people think about this university. So, and the alumni giving rate might look low, but actually it's quite high compared to most universities. So, if there are any questions that you have on there, but it's a good, I think, picture of the university. I think it's a good dashboard. We will update it. It's on our website. And if you have any questions or comments about it, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Jesse, I do have one comment about
Okay.
this, and I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers, and I really like to measure ourselves against things. And I see this target year, but one thing I would be interested to know, and you don't have to put this on the website, but I think the board should see it, is what benchmarks there are. In other words, what is our peer group doing? How are we performing against our peer group?
That is,
And
that's
that would
really
be important.
detailed. Okay.
And I'll tell you this, I also think that, I know we've had historically a peer group in Texas, but I think we ought to start looking on a national level and maybe create a peer group benchmark against co-black schools.
Co-black,
See where we-
national,
Yeah,
so forth.
exactly.
Good
So
idea.
if we could do that, that would be helpful, I think, for the board to see how we're doing.
For example, graduation rate. I won't preach on it anymore. The graduation rate in the United States, the graduation time and graduation rate, we are right with our sister institutions, but it is now 4-year graduation rate's hardly mentioned anymore. It's moved to 6 years. It's the way students go to school. I don't know what all the factors are that contribute to that, but factors like that will really educate you in terms of what's happening in baccalaureate education level in the United States. So we rank right at our peers with 4-year. We were congratulated on doubling our 4-year graduation rate some time back, and I was really kind of surprised at that. But then you look at national data, which does put this in perspective, and you find that we are right there with our sister institutions.
And the
That's a good idea.
coordinating board already does something similar. It's an online resume that compares us to our state peers and out-of-state peers that they've identified. And I will email copies of that to each of you because it gives some perspective, and then we can take it from there.
This is more concise and fits us better. They did it, of course, for all institutions, research and so forth, so it's a little hard to compare.
Yeah, I really like this, because this really is us, and these are the things we look at.
Yes.
So I would be very interested to see,
We can add it.
the peers in Texas and then the co-black schools in
Mr. Chairman, let me mention one thing. The institutional research staff at all the co-black schools that they meet frequently online. They had a meeting about 2 years ago at one of the co-black annual meetings. They do assessment and comparison of all the co-black schools every few years. And so we have those data coming.
Good. Great. Thank you.
Okay, let me finish my report, if you don't mind, by asking Debbie to talk about some of the issues in Austin. We talked about some, but Debbie is there on all hearings that relate closely and even not so closely to higher education. I'd ask her to mention some of the issues that have been going.
Okay. So the session began 4 weeks ago, and it's kind of a new day for everyone with a new governor, new lieutenant governor, 26 freshman representatives, and 9 new senators. So everyone knows the challenges that the state is facing with water and transportation and healthcare costs, and then the tax relief issues that have been discussed, and of course education. So we are hoping that we are in that priority mix. Some of our key needs that Dr. Rogers has continued to talk about are formula funding, HEAF funding, Hazelwood funding, capital construction funding. So there's a lot that could happen to the good, or we could stay relatively flat. As he reported yesterday, we're only up about $500,000 for the upcoming biennium with the base bill, and so we'll just keep working and see what happens. Nearly 2,000 bills have been filed, and we're tracking 170 that directly affect higher education in one way or another. Yesterday, the bill that would allow licensed individuals to carry concealed handguns on college campuses passed out of the State Affairs Committee. They met from like 9 in the morning until after 6 last night. So they had a robust discussion. And of course, I'll continue to follow that process. There's also a lot of talk about the re-regulation of tuition. As you know, in 2003, the state stopped increasing the state tuition portion and gave over to the university boards the responsibility of what to charge tuition. However, funding for higher education has not grown substantially since that time. So, as we know, the burden has shifted to the university and to the students. So there's a lot of talk about what they will do with tuition, and there's so many bills, it'll be interesting to see which one rises to the top. Dr. Rogers testified before Senate Finance the other day, Tuesday. My days are running together, and will appear before House Appropriations this coming Tuesday. These are totally new faces. I think on the subcommittee, there are only 2 people that we've ever seen in a higher ed or appropriations hearing. So it's going to be a learning process for them, and I know Dr. Rogers will do a great job. They treated him very well. So it'll be an interesting spring and session. And if you ever have any questions about a bill you hear about or something, I have on my little list of what they all are. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Before I forget, Dr. Clark was gracious enough to go out and find this article that I mentioned yesterday from the New York Times, and so he's printed it for your reading pleasure. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. It is really, as I mentioned yesterday, an interesting article, really a big plus for the liberal arts and how we view education. So take a peek at it. I think that's it. That's it. The Board of Regents will now go into executive session to discuss item 1594, University President's Annual Performance and Compensation and Contract Review, and item 1595, Presidential Search as allowed by Texas Government Code Section 551.074. For the record, the date is February 13th, 2015. The time is 9:22. Dr. Rogers, Mr. Maka, Ms. Barrow, and members of the Presidential Search Committee that are here may remain at this time. Please stop the webcast. Good. Here we go. The closed session is complete. The only items discussed were the items announced, and no votes were taken. We are now back in open session. Is there any action forthcoming from the executive session? If not, that concludes our meetings today. We are adjourned. See you in May, March.